You want to live stream your D&D actual play with the world. You've got a great idea for a game, or maybe you're already doing so, but you know you can improve it. You've seen a bunch of actual plays like D4, Critical Role, Relics and Reliquaries, and Dimension 20, and you think to yourself, I can do that. I want to share what I've created with a bunch of people, and I want to be just like them. And now here you are watching my video wondering, how do I go about being just like them? And in this video, I'm going to talk about some things you should do and a lot of things you shouldn't do. So let's make your D&D actual play the best it possibly can be. So you've got the idea for your D&D live stream actual play, and now you're setting down to get started with building it. Now, depending on how you're going to be performing this show will dictate how you should go about building it. Because if you have all your players sitting down at your table and you're doing it that way, well, you're going to focus on a lot of different things and probably a lot more things than if you were doing it all online. And I'm going to be honest, if you are doing a D&D actual show and it's all online through Tabletop Simulator or Roll20, doesn't matter, you already have a bit of an uphill battle in front of you. Most people do not enjoy watching actual plays when they're all online. And there are many, many different reasons for this. I have my own as well, but a lot of people just simply don't enjoy watching live shows that way. So if you're doing it that way, you have more work in front of you, and it's going to be a lot harder because you can't control every aspect about that work. And I'll get into what I mean here, but first let's go through some examples so I can really showcase you what I mean. Now, these examples I'm showing here are just who is live right now on Twitch at the time of recording. I don't know any of these people probably don't know me, and this is not intended to bash them or anything. This is simply to take what I think are problems and how they and you can fix them. First thing you can do is get the aspect ratio for your stream correct. This, as you can tell, is not correct. They have been live for 5 hours. Someone please tell them how to fix this. But even if we were to change this to the correct orientation, looking at this from a viewer's perspective, what is the first thing you notice that puts you off watching this? For me, it's too cluttered. Now, from a Dungeon Master's perspective, who is, I'm assuming, the person that's running this live stream, I understand why it looks like this. I fully get why their screen looks like this. Because you have all the players signed in through Roll20, you have all their names and their icons at the bottom, plus you have the map they're using on Roll20, and all of their icons and their health bars and everything, and then you have the chat bar with all their dice rolls and everything on Roll20, and I get why it's all there. I understand. But the viewers don't need to see all of that. It's actually beneficial if they don't see all of that, because, like I said, for me, this is way too cluttered of an experience. How I'd fix this if I could only work with what I have is I would immediately only capture exactly the square with the map, and everything else I would just get rid of. There's no need to stream the chat bar. There's no need to stream all of your different tabs and stuff above hand. Just focus on the actual map part that you have. It would still be a little cluttered with just the way everything looks, but it would be far less cluttered, and you'd only focus on what actually matters to the people watching. Now, next up, still sticking with the online D&D game, we have this streamer who is doing something way different than the other streamer beforehand, and it already looks way better. First things first, it's correctly orientated, which is a fucking awesome thing to see. Didn't think this was something we need to praise, but this is not the last time we're going to praise someone for correctly getting the right aspect ratio. But like the last one, let me ask you, what is the first thing that jumps out at you when you click in to watch this D&D live stream? I'm pretty sure we all know exactly what two things we're looking at here, and it has nothing to do with the live stream whatsoever. And I'm not immune to this. That's the whole reason I clicked on this live stream. I was scrolling through the live streams of Dungeons and Dragons, and I saw that picture in the corner of that thumbnail, and it made me click on it. But it has absolutely nothing to do with the live stream. It is just the icon for the likely copyrighted music that this creator is playing. And there is no need to show that for actually benefiting the live stream itself. For getting people to click on it, sure, it got me, but it doesn't make me stay. Now, the map looks wonderful. The way everything is laid out here, with the exception of the copyright music icon that doesn't need to be there, is pretty good. It's still a little too much clutter for my liking. First thing I would get rid of is the Discord overlay. It doesn't benefit the viewer at all with you showcasing it. It only adds to more clutter on the live stream, and nobody needs to see the tiny little icons with the text that you can barely read because it's so small light up when they're speaking. It's completely unnecessary and it doesn't need to be there. Same with the dice spot next to it and the other little Discord icon. It's unnecessary, it doesn't need to be there, it doesn't benefit the viewer in any way by having that publicly shown. Same thing with the Roll20, the whole right-hand side, all of that is unnecessary. It doesn't benefit to the viewer's experience watching in any way whatsoever. It only serves to clutter your actual display that you're showcasing to the viewer. The one thing I can understand leaving would be the initiative tracker, because sometimes viewers can enjoy seeing who's next in combat initiative, and they can follow along with initiative much easier that way by seeing who's next in the turn order. Now, so far, everything we talked about has been visual, but visuals are not the most important thing when it comes to D&D live streams. It's audio. If you saw my previous video linked up here, the #1 thing you need when you're starting a D&D actual play is good audio. Visuals are fine. Visuals can help, but they are not the makes or breaks when it comes to D&D actual plays. Because a lot of people, myself included, when they are watching a D&D actual play, they are listening way more often than they are watching. So what does this D&D actual play sound like?
The ship is very advanced. It can handle the temperatures of this planet just fine. And you guys have like special like spacesuit magic items. They're not really like spacesuits, but like...
A lot of people would listen to that and they'd say it's fine. However, after doing 4 years of audio engineering, I know that it could be a lot better. And I don't need to tell you it can be better, I can simply show you. Listen to this clip again.
You guys have like special like spacesuit magic items. They're not really like spacesuits.
And now listen to this clip.
Prophetess Amelin to use her ability Spell Siphon. When Amelin sees a creature cast a spell within 60 feet, the caster must make a dexterity saving throw or you're going to take damage.
Does she have a reaction?
She got it back at the start of her turn and she didn't use it since.
That's
well remembered though.
true.
I admire the hustle.
And now listen to this clip.
As you're all getting ready to leave, Perry comes over to you, Crash. Hey! What's going on?
Hey, we gotta head out. God damn it, I kiss him.
And just for good measure, how about this one?
Did you give yourself your name or?
No. My former associate gave me my name. She named all of her creations after her favorite smells.
Oh, that's lovely.
There was a bunch of us. There was me. There was oatmeal. There was apple pie. There was pussy. There was a bunch of us.
Wow.
It's so nice to see other people having to hear this. It's really just bringing everything into sharp perspective.
You don't need 4 years of audio engineering to know that the first set of audio can be so much better, and you'd rather listen to all the other ones I played before that one. And this is what I was saying, if you were going to be doing a online D&D actual play, you have a lot more work cut out for you, and a lot of that work you can't control. You do not have control over everybody's microphones. You do not have control over everybody's environment and the acoustic treatments of that environment and how many other audio noises are going on in that environment. You can only control your microphone and the environment around you. And it makes it so much more difficult when you can't control that, because it will ultimately affect your product. So I implore you, if you are going to run, or if you are running a D&D actual play and you're doing it online where all your players are in different parts of the world, if you want it to be successful and be the best it can be, I would ask you to please sit down with your players and let them know that you want their audio to be as best as it can be and to be as isolated as possible. Not everyone can buy good microphones. Not everyone can be as isolated as possible. I know that. But if you want your stuff to sound good, you need to try and get it there as best as you can. And sometimes that means having awkward conversations with your players and being like, hey, could you please use your headset microphone instead of your webcam audio? Webcam audio is awful. And trust me, we're gonna get to webcam audio in just a moment. Now, there's another aspect that kind of ties into audio, but it's also a visual thing that I want to briefly talk on. Numerous times during this live stream, the Dungeon Master is constantly on his phone. He's leaning back in his chair away from the monitor and he's just doing whatever is on his phone, and only when his players ask him something does he look up from his phone and he leans back in to answer their question, and he's never super excited about it. And I mean, look at this. He just dragged this creature on screen, and this creature is coming for the party that's in that spaceship with all the gusto of a feather falling off a bird. This should be a monumental moment of extreme, crazy excitement and horror. And it was just nothing. And you can look in the clips I showed you as well. Presentation also goes along with audio and visual. You need to perform. You need to showcase how awesome, how sad, how exciting, how miserable certain aspects about this are. You are doing this for a live audience or a recorded audience if you're just doing recordings. If you want this to do well, you need to perform. If you were just doing this for yourself and your friends, then none of this matters. But the fact that you are live streaming this, that you're recording this for other people to watch and for yourself to hopefully grow, you kind of need to put some effort into it, man. But that's enough about online examples. What if you're going to be playing with everybody in person? You have full control out of all the equipment. You have control over every camera. You have control over every microphone of all of their placements, and you have full capabilities to do everything you need to visually and auditorily, it's a word, trust me, make this the best it can be. How would that look? I hope it doesn't look like this. This suffers from the same thing I said earlier about clutter. There's a lot of stuff going on screen that just doesn't need to be there. His Twitch logo is also on screen when it doesn't need to be because it's his Twitch logo. It's already next to his name. It does not need to be on the stream as well. You also don't need the dice/game field banner. That's unnecessary. Everyone knows what they're looking at. I also don't know what this is or this. It's not adding anything to the D&D show that you're trying to portray. Now, camera quality aside, not everyone has the capability to get very good quality visual cameras. I know that. I'm understandable about that. Money is a hard thing to come by. However, you can do a lot with lights. Even with piss poor cameras, you can do a lot with just lighting. What you're watching me on right now is my iPhone on a little like $5 tripod from Best Buy. However, I have a ring light here and I have a box light there. If I turn those off, I would be a blurry dark mess. However, the one thing this person could do that would make this live stream visually look so much better and it would cost them nothing except for 2 minutes of their time is placement. I don't understand why these cameras are placed where they are. From the main camera's point of view, you could see the players sitting on that side of the table, but you couldn't really see the ones sitting on this side of the table. And I don't honestly think they can even sit on that side of the table because what I think is a monitor is sitting right there in the middle. But if you just move some things around this space a little bit and you set the cameras up so that one camera can see one side of the table and then the other camera in the corner there could see the other side of the table, then you could see all the players and you keep the third camera for yourself. Then everybody is in frame and you could see everybody correctly. They got rid of all the unnecessary little icons and things and they reframed their cameras and changed where the placement of the little camera webcam sources they have are. This could look decent. I'd also change the background they have with the bricks. It's a very low quality image and you can count the pixels in the image because it's been expanded so much. You can easily find a nice high quality brick background if they wanted and just add a little bit of blur to it and that would look great and it would make everything else pop out for free on Google. And talking about the camera angles as well, the camera for the GM, you don't want to set it down here looking up at you. It's a very unnatural viewing angle. Have it more at eye level. The same idea with the players of maybe a little bit above eye level, but don't have it below eye level. I can see more of your ceiling, your background, and the other monitor you have behind you than I can of actual you. Now let's check the audio, and how does it sound?
No, let's... I think he's doing extra attack during the turn once a day. Attack earring?
Attack ring.
Oh, no, I think it has a bonus.
This is 3 times a day this moves.
Well, just like the other ones, it's not great. It's actually really, really bad. I can't even see what type of microphones they are using in this live stream, but I'd have to imagine they don't have any dedicated microphones and it's just a built-in microphone in the cameras that they're filming with. I don't actually know, but that's what I'm gonna guess because I can't see anything in any of the cameras that would say otherwise. While we're on the subject of microphones, let's talk a little bit about the different types of microphones and the different placement of microphones you will see in a lot of D&D actual plays and what works best for you. Now, so far, in basically every D&D actual play we've looked at, if it's the online ones, they're likely using a headset microphone. A lot of the players are likely wearing something like this that has a little headset that comes out of the side here and they just talk into this. And honestly, it's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. It is better than using the built-in webcam microphone. Even though some of these actual plays are still doing that, like the next one we're gonna talk about. But for almost every single in-person actual play that I've come across, the vast majority of them, the actual, ones with good audio, are doing things like this. They have a microphone directly in front of them and it captures all of their audio. Wonderful. They sound beautiful, like right now. And while this is a good way to capture audio and it sounds great, it is not my preferred way to capture audio when it comes to D&D actual plays. We'll get to my preferred method in a way, but there's another 2 ways to capture audio for actual plays. The second last way is using lapel microphones like this one. For example, this one has a simple aux input that goes into older iPhones, or you can use a converter that goes from this to Lightning or this to USB-C, and that will work just fine. You can also get more complex ones like these. These are battery powered and they send their signal wirelessly to either a receiver like this, or to a different control panel plugged into a recording device like a Zoom or an actual computer. These sound way better than the smaller one I was using, but they are also way more expensive. Now the last version is using overhead shotgun microphones. This is far and beyond my preferred way for getting D&D actual play audio. It's actually my far and beyond preferred method for shooting most of my YouTube videos. You can actually see it right there. It's way off in the background. It's black against black, but that's my overhead shotgun microphone. Now everything has its pros and cons, and the lists are varied between all of them, but I'm going to give you my pros and cons in a very quick way for each different method. The microphone directly in front of you method, pro, it is probably the best sounding audio you could get with the microphone as close as possible to its cast member. The con is that they're big and bulky and they cover up a lot of the cast member's face, and the cast member always has to remember to keep themselves directly near the microphone while they're role-playing, otherwise the audio changes constantly. A problem that is solved by lapel microphones. The pro of lapel microphones is they're small and discreet. You can put them on the cast member wherever they are, and they don't need to worry about making sure they're constantly talking to the microphone. Because the microphone is on them, it moves with them while they are doing their shots. The con with lapel microphones is that the vast majority of them record to local devices that you need to also then keep on the cast members. So you have to collect all of those recordings after you are done and output them onto your editing program. Or if you're doing wireless capture, you have to send them all to your PC that is streaming or recording your actual play. And anytime you are adding wireless devices into something that is going on for 3 to 4 hours at a time, there is a tendency for quality loss to happen. You also run the risk of batteries being low and running out while you're playing. You have to change them out while you're live. Or cast members getting up and walking away with the devices, and then if they're going to the bathroom, so help you God, you'll hear them in the bathroom, and so will the audience. Or they could go home with them because they just forget that they're there. Numerous things can happen. Things that cannot happen with overhead shotgun mics. You don't have the problem with them being attached to the cast member, so the cast member can never leave with them accidentally or go to the bathroom with them, or have to worry about them running out of batteries, or worry about being in front of the microphone at all times. Now this part's a bit subjective, but they also don't sound perfect. Like these ones, these sound perfect. The audio is crisp and quality, but it's also a little bit unnatural listening to this. You want a bit of a more roomy sounding voice when it comes to lag plays. But these are also the most expensive, but they're also the best quality. And the number one reason they're my number one pick, they don't add any clutter to the visual for the audience. They also don't constantly involve the person playing D&D to remember the microphone. Now lapels can get away with this too. If you hide them under the shirt, then you and the audience members can't see them. But there's more problems with lapels than there are with the overheads. Cast members are not interrupted by seeing a microphone constantly in front of them because they're so up high and out of the way, they don't even think they're there. And they don't have to worry about them at the end of the day either. But you will very rarely see them with a lot of the D&D actual plays you'll find on Twitch and YouTube because they're expensive, they require a lot of XLR cables, usually a mixer to mix it all, and a lot of people just don't want to deal with all of that because it's a lot of work. But let's look at another in-person D&D game here and see how things are going. Now this one, from a visual standpoint, isn't too bad actually. The cameras are in decent spots. You can see all the players and the DM very well. And they've even got a fourth camera here for what I can assume is combat. There's a little degradation going on with the combat camera. You can see the flickering on the stream there. But otherwise, so far, this is the best looking ones. However, you're watching this muted, and I haven't unmuted it yet. And before I unmute it, I'm going to tell you, I can already tell this will not sound great before I even unmute it, and I will show you why. Look at where all the cast members are and where the dungeon master is. Now look at where the microphones are. They are clearly not wearing lapel microphones, and they clearly don't have overhead microphones, otherwise there'd be no reason for the microphones on the table. So those microphones should be directly in front of them, or at least as close as this one is to me. They're not. So they're probably not going to sound great.
Peggy Air. Peggy Air, right here.
Peggy Air.
Yeah, Peggy Air.
Some
And
tiger boots.
as she gives it a pet, the wings kind of flutter slightly.
I told you it wouldn't sound good. And it's actually worse than you think, because I am certain the microphones on the table and the microphone he has on his boom arm are not the microphones that are being used. I'm almost dead certain the audio we're listening to is the audio coming from that single C920 webcam in the middle of the table. Because no matter who is talking and no matter where they are in the room, they all sound the same. They all have the same terrible quality, but their audio level is all the same even when they're moving. And the only way you can capture that type of audio is with an omnidirectional microphone, which so happens to be what the C920 has built in. This is why I kept saying webcam microphones are terrible microphones. Don't use them. Almost anything else is better. And the other reason why I know they're not using the microphones in front of their table is because if they did, you would hear it. You would hear how different they are when they move around the room and get closer or further away from the microphone. This is how you know it's coming from this microphone, but they all sound the same no matter where they are, which means it's an omnidirectional microphone, which means it's a webcam microphone. Don't use webcam microphones. I have to imagine they're doing this because there's problems with their audio equipment or because they can't get the players to sit anywhere near their microphones at all. I mean, just looking at where the players are sitting, none of them are anywhere near any of those microphones that even if they were using them, they still wouldn't sound great. But visually, this is not terrible. There is a bit more clutter than I would like, but you can see everybody very clearly. You can even have a battle map camera, which is nice, but the audio is just not great. And if the audio was good, this would be decent. This would be an all right stream. But lastly, let's look at what I would say is probably the best out of the ones I want to offer advice to here. This is another one that is in person, but could still use some, tweaks. Now, at first glance, this doesn't look too bad. However, it's in a square aspect ratio. You have black bars on both sides of the screen here that are not being used because they're filming and recording in a square aspect ratio. What is the first thing you think I'm going to say as a fix for this? If you said get rid of the clutter, you're right. Now, things I would keep, if you want to keep the names of the players, that's fine. I would leave those. That's okay to have. However, our links and all three of the links there are so small that I can't even read the letters. If you want to link people to other platforms to follow your streams at or your content, just put that in the about section of your Twitch page or the descriptions of the videos when they go on YouTube. Putting them on the stream itself is unnecessary. It adds clutter. And in this instance, they're so small that you can't even read the letters. Also, the DQC presents and the name of the stream, you don't need those. You already have that in the title of the stream itself. It adds unnecessary clutter to the show. All of those I would get rid of. I do like the backdrops with the flowers and the nice little pillars. That adds a lot to the environment here, and it goes with the kind of green and gold theme they have going on. I think it's a really nice choice. And the Dungeon Master has a microphone directly in front of them to help with audio. Now let's see about that audio.
I was using a perception check to keep an eye out.
What was your perception roll?
29.
Okay, you would notice her slink off.
Okay. What direction?
That microphone is not being used. One of those webcams, omnidirectional mics, is capturing everybody's audio, including the Dungeon Masters. I don't know how they can't tell, considering all four of them are wearing headphones, which I would think is so they can listen to their own audio. Now, I don't see any microphones for all three of the players. They could be wearing lapel mics and we just can't see them, but from the audio quality, again, even if they are wearing lapel microphones, that's not what's being recorded. Now, going back to the design for a brief second, the green visuals, I like it. I do like the aesthetic they're going for. However, the animation is constantly flickering and flashing like green lightning is coming through, and it's unnecessary because it distracts from what's actually going on. If you're going to have a background behind all your webcams and everything, either have a static background or something with very small motion that adds a little bit but doesn't pull focus away. This one, if it wasn't flickering and it didn't move so fast, it would be perfect. But because all the little firelights and the fog and the lightning happen so often, it is a distraction and it doesn't enhance, it simply distracts. So now that we've talked about all these different shows and what I think makes good shows, what I think makes bad shows, just from a visual and audio standpoint, the key things I want you to take away from this is 1, audio trumps everything. People will care more about your audio than they ever will care about anything you have visually going on. You don't need to have everybody wearing headphones to monitor everybody's voices. That I would say is unnecessary and it's just extra money that you don't need. But if you can get yourself a mixing board, some microphones like these, or even some overhead shotguns, that would be my personal pick, and run it all into a mixing board, and just before you start recording or live streaming, have everybody sit down at the table and just have a conversation, monitor everybody's audio with your headphones, and set them all so they all sound natural. And if they sound like this, the microphone is too goddamn close to them, turn the gain down, or move it further away from them. And if they sound like this for some reason, that means the microphone is too goddamn far away from them. Put it closer. After that, once you've got good audio and you're now working on your overlay, focus on what the viewers would find interesting. What do you find interesting about any of these that I've shown? What do you find uninteresting? What do you find too much? What do you find unnecessary? What do you find really cool? What do you find as like an inspiration? Go from there and remember a key and important detail. Less is more. Social media links and all that shit you don't need on stream. Put that in your about section if you really want it. It's unnecessary. And after you've done your live stream, or you've done a test one, you've done a recording or a live stream, go back and watch it. Listen to it and really think to yourself, would I be comfortable? Would I be happy with watching this and listening to this as a viewer for 3 to 4 hours every week? No? Why? Fix it. Improve on it. Do not half-ass anything, because you will not be proud of it. And if you are trying to show it to other people who you want to watch, you need to be proud of what you're putting out. You need to be happy with the product that you are showing. Now, a key aspect about this that I know a lot of people are probably talking about is money. A lot of stuff to make it good requires a lot of money. And yes, if you want to run a D&D actual play, especially one in person where you have control over everything, which includes microphones and cameras, yes, it will be expensive. But if you want it to succeed, if you want it to have the chance of succeeding, you kind of need to put some money aside. Because yes, you can start on YouTube with just your cell phone and some microphone. Yes, you can just live stream your D&D using a webcam and the built-in microphone, but you can't succeed with just that. And if you want to succeed, you have to put in the effort. And that means saving up a bit of money for good quality gear. And that could take time. How frightening, but it will be time worthwhile. Do you want your stream to look like this? Or do you want your stream to look like this? If that means you have to wait a while, then so be it. It will be worth it. Because even if it doesn't get the recognition you want, even if it doesn't get the views you want or anything, at the end of the day, it will still be a product that you made that you yourself will feel happy with. But now that I've given you a lot of examples and a lot of discussion about what makes or breaks good or bad D&D live streams and actual plays through it online or in person, now you want to know about the gear. What kind of gear should I save up for? What kind of stuff is worth getting? What kind of stuff is not worth getting? What type of things do I need for cameras? What do I need for microphones and all this other jazz? And that is all stuff we're going to be talking about in this video here, unless you're early and this video is not out yet. But there's probably a different video here that is worthwhile checking out that is still on the topic.